What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with a brand new series. Officially, the NFL season is over. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, again, Super Bowl champs. I'll keep saying it. But we are getting into rookie content. It's rookie season. We're heading into free agency soon. We're getting into pro days and draft prep and all that kind of stuff. So we are going to be going through each prospect in depth. And what we're going to be doing, instead of doing a single video on Najee Harris, for example, we're going to cover some of the bigger decisions that you guys have to make in your dynasty drafts and your rookie drafts this coming off season. Because I mean, this video right here, you guys saw the title of it. This is going to be a big time decision for you guys that have rookie drafts coming up.
For sure. Again, we mentioned it. There's a lot of people on YouTube now that will just say, oh, this is the Najee Harris breakdown. This is the Travis Etienne breakdown. What we strive to do today is compare the two. And you can really evaluate on your own based on the traits that we discuss, based on who has the advantage in each, and based on the overall play styles of these guys, which one you would prefer when going into your rookie drafts. Again, we're going to talk about it at the end. These guys are very close-knit when we go through these comparisons. So hopefully you guys enjoy and get a lot of value from this video.
Yeah. And if you guys want any more information about Dynasty, rookie strategy, our rankings, all that kind of stuff, you can get in our draft guide. And there will be a video that plays right after I say this, giving you more information on that. Just a reminder, guys, for a chance to be entered into a listener Dynasty League with myself and Danny, you can pre-order our draft guide now at thefantasystockexchange.com. Read Jaylen, Waddle, Travis Etienne totally for free. Enter your email to get $5 off the $30 purchase price. Watch the video on the homepage to explore all the great benefits that will be in the guide once it drops March 1st, and we're back to the video. Okay, so we're going to get into these players. We're going to get into basically their backgrounds in college. We're going to go through the traits that matter for evaluating running backs. And then we're going to go kind of how they stack up against each other. So we'll start with Najee Harris. Najee Harris, coming out of high school, is a 5-star recruit. He was one of the best prospects in the country, #1 at running back in 2017, the high school class coming out. He was just ahead of Cam Akers as the best running back in that class. So he was a highly decorated recruit coming into Alabama. And that's no stranger to Alabama fans because they always get really highly recruited running backs.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Najee Harris had the hype tape and everything. He was coming in. He got the hype, and let's just say throughout his Alabama career, he thoroughly met those expectations. Travis Etienne was actually a 4-star recruit in that same 2017 class. Was he number 15 overall running back? So yeah, 4 stars pretty good. But guess what? This guy played like a 5-star throughout his college career, as we're going to get into. 2 of the most productive running backs in the entire country across their careers. Let's delve into this, Corey, because I am fired up.
Yeah, so we're going to start with their kind of like analytic stuff. And you guys probably know our thoughts on analytics. We believe in analytics. We think they're important. We're not like the people that will literally draft based on analytics. Yeah, we like to take everything into context and kind of weigh everything as we go. So we'll start with Najee Harris. Najee Harris is 6'2", 230-pound running back. So he's a big dude. He's tall and he's thick. The big thing that analytics people don't like about Najee Harris, however, is the fact that he's 23 years old, and he will be nearly 23 and a half by the time he takes his first NFL snap. So that is a big concern for a lot of people. Again, it's a concern. It definitely downgrades him a little bit, especially with the considerations of the position and the fact that it doesn't usually last the longest in the NFL. But I'm not overly concerned about Najee Harris's age. What about you?
Not at all. I mean, heck, his birthday's right on the right day, 2 years exactly to the day before myself. So he's going to be 23 when I'm turning 21. So that's pretty wild. But anyways, talking about it. Yeah. Okay, so what? He's going to be 23 and a half when he joins the NFL. He's already played like an NFL back in this past season. So I have no concerns of his overall ability to transition to that next level because let's be honest here, you don't put up the production, you don't play the way he did unless you're an NFL caliber back right now. So yeah, well, let's get into these 6 traits. You want to briefly mention what these traits are and how they really correlate to fantasy football success in your opinion?
Yeah, I just want to go over a couple things real quick. Just Etienne is not the same size as Harris. He's 5'10", 205, so not quite the same thickness and all that kind of stuff. But he does have prototypical like efficiency back type size. I wouldn't say workhorse size because he doesn't have that, but he does have feature back size. And he's a little bit younger. He's a year younger than Najee Harris. As far as their analytics, like a lot of people that like the analytics part of the running back position, both of these guys, incredible college target shares, great college dominators, and great college yards per carry. So they were all pretty fantastic from that perspective. But 6 traits, the 6 traits that matter most for most running backs coming into the NFL. And now this isn't necessarily cut and dry. Any other traits that they might have is a bonus to their kind of success at the running back position. But these are, in our opinion, the 6 traits that matter most to running back fantasy scoring because they can be directly attributed to fantasy points and to productiveness.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention, these 6 traits matter the most in terms of fantasy production. Obviously, you're going to hear from a lot of people who study these guys and break them down from an NFL perspective. They're going to mention things like vision, patience, all that. Yes, they matter from an NFL perspective, but let me tell you, is patience just going to get you an 80-yard touchdown? No, we care about the bottom line. We care about the actual result rather than the real process of it. Like
I have to say my catchphrase now. We're not NFL scouts. We don't care if they can find the holes with vision and patience and nuance and stuff like that. Because the reality is that doesn't really get us any fantasy points. It helps, but it doesn't give us any fantasy points directly. So what we're going to start with is the first trait, and this is the single most important trait, in my opinion, that a running back has to have to be an NFL caliber player. And that's elusiveness. You got to be able to make people miss. In the NFL, the windows close, the holes close, the lanes close. People are better tacklers. You cannot run through wide open lanes every single play like Kalen Ballage did at Arizona State. You have to be able to make people miss. And these 2 guys are 2 of the better ones in the class at doing so.
100%. So going into Etienne real quickly first, man, his elusiveness grades overall in these past 2 seasons have just been phenomenal. So if you're mentioning in 2020, this past season, he had a 102.7, which actually ranked 9th in the class. But that didn't even pale, or that paled in comparison to his 2019. Get this, 213.9 elusiveness rating, ranked 1st in the class. Getting over a 200 elusiveness rating on the amount of sheer touches that he actually had is just insane. So, I mean, Etienne is an absolute stud. You can break down this aspect for Najee Harris as well, because they're both very, very talented at just making guys miss.
Yeah, and from a film perspective, both of these guys, once you get them in space, it's really hard to tackle them.
Yes.
But yeah, as you mentioned, 102.7, 8th in the class in this past year, and 106.0, 7th in the class from 2019. So these dudes know how to make people miss. The tape backs it up, the analytics back it up. And once we get into their tackles avoided too, Najee Harris, 36.9%. Of his runs, he made someone miss, basically, on whether it was a receiving, run play, whatever the case is, and 33.49% in 2019. So this is a guy who is consistently making someone miss on over 30% of his runs, which is definitely translatable to the NFL because, as I mentioned, the holes close up quick, the lanes close up quick. You need to be able to make people miss through elusiveness, through contact, whatever the case is. You can't have free tacklers coming at you and go down on first contact.
Exactly. That's the key, man. Avoiding first contact taking you down, or basically making sure that first contact does not take you down, is going to be how you get those big runs. It's going to be how you get those 15-yard runs. Because in reality here, if someone's making contact with you at 5 yards, there's a difference between going down and staying up. It's how you get those extra yards. So we mentioned, again, you mentioned the stats for Harris in the last 2 years for tackles avoided per attempt. Travis Etienne was kind of like a tale of 2 seasons, if you will. Because in 2020, he kind of, I don't want to say struggled in this aspect because he was still like very good. He avoided a tackle on 26.6% of his overall attempts. But in 2019, this man was
stupid in this area.
2019, this man was on another planet. 42.2% of his attempts, he avoided a tackle. That is insanity. I mean, we mentioned how elite Harris's aspects were at 36.9 and 33.49 these past 2 years. Etienne's 42.2 in 2019 is just silly. But again, because we're combining these 2 years, a 26.6 does take into effect here. So overall, I think we can agree that the advantage will slightly lean Harris, even though they're both fantastic at this aspect. But we're splitting hairs here. But ultimately, Najee Harris is the more elusive overall back, in our opinions.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you look at Najee Harris on film, you just see a guy with absolutely special feet.
Yes.
And that might sound weird to some people, but this guy, for a 230-pound running back, his feet are basically the same as what Cam Akers were last year. And if you guys watched Cam Akers' combine, watched when he run those agility drills, it was literally just like so smooth. It was like watching Jeff Okudah run cornerback drills. Like it was just crazy smooth how smooth his feet were. And Najee Harris does that better than Etienne, like lateral agility and stuff like that. But these guys are both crazy good at it. And as I mentioned, this is very important for a running back to have. 10 of the top 12 running backs in fantasy scoring this season ranked top, I believe it was 18 or 20 in PFF elusive rating. So this is a trait that directly translates to fantasy points. And the 2 that didn't rank top 12 were Derrick Henry, who just runs everyone over, and James Robinson, who got force-fed volume. So like the guys that needed to be efficient to some degree definitely were efficient in this area. So the next area that we're going to be covering is contact balance. And this is, again, another very important area for running backs to have, because again, you can't go down on first contact. Part of that is making people miss, and another part of that is actually breaking tackles. And these two guys were, again, amongst the best in the country the past 2 years at doing this in contact balance. Najee Harris actually had a bit of a fall off this past season in terms of contact balance, where he only ranked 14th in this class out of the 18 qualified running backs that had 100 plus carries, and at 3.26 yards after contact, and 3.57 in 2019, which actually ranked 9th out of 25 in the class. So he was much better in 2019 at this area, but he was so good in so many other areas, like making people miss, for example. You can't get yards after contact if they don't make contact with you. So, but either way, both of these guys can do it all. And Harris definitely proved that the past couple of years, especially.
100%. And when we're talking about Etienne, I mean, this is his bread and butter. This is his statistic. This is what he makes babies at.
This is what the Alvin Kamara comparison came from. When people started comparing him to Alvin Kamara, this is why.
This is why, because quite frankly, his contact balance is insanity. I mean, we're talking about the metrics alone. 3.84 in 2020, ranks 10th in the class. So a little bit down of a year, but still top 10 in the class is phenomenal for your down year. And then 2019, just again, another world. I mean, Travis Etienne, he should have came out last year. I think we all can recognize that at this point, but 5.07 yards.
I don't even think a running back was over 4, and he was over 5 in that class.
5.07 yards after contact per attempt. First in the class. I mean, that's easily. I mean, it's phenomenal. We mentioned how great Harris is with his feet at eluding people. Let me tell you, when people are making contacts with Etienne, they're not taking them down either. So it's weird because you would associate the more physicality, breaking tackles with a guy like Najee Harris and the overall elusiveness with a Etienne based on their profiles in terms of size. But in terms of their play styles, it's the opposite, which is like weird for a casual fan to really hear. But that's what these guys bring to the table. Both are freaking elite. And as I mentioned, Travis Etienne is the best contact balance back in this entire draft. So therefore, guess what? He'll take the advantage in this aspect. So 1-1, scores evened. What do you say, Corey?
Yeah, and an interesting stat about this is that Travis Etienne in 2019 earned 5 yards after contact, his average, on 31% of his total runs. And the college football average was like 15%. So he was like twice as good as the college football average at the running back position. So yeah, again, in 2019, he was just completely out of this world. 2020, he was still very good, but not quite as good as he was in 2019. Yeah, as you mentioned, contact balance, best in the class, not even close in my opinion. So receiving ability, and this is one, again, as you can imagine, if you play in any kind of PPR league, this 100% directly correlates to fantasy points, because if you're able to catch the ball, if you're able to run routes, if you're able to get open as a receiver and make things happen after the catch, then you can directly impact fantasy scoring from that perspective. So both of these guys ranked number 1 and number 2 in the entire country at the running back position in receptions at the running back position. Travis Etienne had 48 and Najee Harris had 43.
Yeah, these are the cream of the crop in terms of receiving talents in this class. We're mentioning this. We got you mentioned Najee Harris, 43 receptions and ranked first in the class in reception tackles avoided at 22. Well, guess what? Etienne just dropped into ranked first in the class in receptions and second in tackles avoided at 13. So, I mean, both are phenomenal here. I'm slightly giving the edge to Harris simply because what we've seen in terms of a versatility aspect. While Etienne, don't get me wrong, phenomenal in the short passing game. He's able to take small little dump offs and turn them into magical plays. I feel like Harris gives you a little more versatility in that aspect. You can split him out if you need to. You could use him in multiple routes, and his verticality for a running back. I mean, it makes sense for his frame, 6'2", 230. But let me tell you, if you're throwing a jump ball to this guy, he's coming down with it. He's coming down with it. We mentioned that with Jamar Chase when we talked about him multiple times. Guess what? Najee Harris at the running back position is kind of what Jamar Chase is the receiver position in this draft.
Yeah. And I think when you look at the two guys and what separates them in receiving ability, because I do agree with you, I do think Harris beats him in this area, is like you said, versatility. And another thing is experience, because Travis Etienne, there's the famous quote earlier in his college career that he said he's like scared of catching passes or something like that. But this is an area that he got much better at throughout his college career, because he was like, he'll catch a check down like 2 years ago. Now he's actually running routes. He's actually Like, he has natural hands. He turns up field quickly after he catches the ball. And Harris has always been like that. So I'll give the edge to Harris just because he's always been good in the receiving game. And like you said, he is split out more and he does run more like wheel routes and stuff downfield. Pass protection. This is an air. Go ahead.
I was going to say, for those who are counting at home, we got the advantage right now, 2-1 for Harris. So let's talk about pass protection because will he even it out? We'll find out. Let's break it down, Corey.
Yeah, pass protection. Again, if you can't get on the field as a rookie running back on third down, it's usually because of pass protection. And we saw that this year with Antonio Gibson and with DeAndre Swift. Like, these guys, if you look at their PFF grades, they actually really struggled in pass protection. So if the coach doesn't trust you to protect the quarterback if he has to leave you in on third down, then he's going to put in a more experienced running back like Kerryon Johnson or like JD McKissick on third down instead of you, even though you might be a better receiver than that running back. So this is an area that does matter. As much as these guys are good at catching the ball, they need to be able to protect as well if they want to secure the third down role on their respective teams. So both guys were on the field for passing downs at the first and second highest rate in the entire class. They were the only two running backs with 300 plus passing down snaps. And that makes sense considering how much they caught the ball. But on film for both of these guys, I didn't really see any issues. If you look at their advanced metrics, obviously you see a bit more of an issue for Najee Harris. He actually ranked number 18 out of 22 in this class in pass block efficiency, allowing 4 hurries and 5 pressures on only 40 snaps in protection. So he definitely did struggle with it a lot more than Etienne, which you'll get to in a second.
Yep.
But I didn't personally see any issues with him on tape. I guess it must have been some of the games that I didn't watch of him, but I still think this is an area that he needs to improve in.
Yeah, 100%. And that, as you mentioned, Etienne, we'll both agree, will end up getting the nod in this aspect. He looked solid on Pass Pro when I watched him on film. I mean, he was able to take out really any rush that really came his way. I mean, we're mentioning the actual metrics, 4 hurries and 5 pressures, which basically equaled what Harris did. Only he did it on 26 more pass block and snaps at 66. So basically same output in terms of overall pressures and hits, except he was doing it much more often. So overall, he ranked 12th in this class in rated pass block efficiency, which is an improvement from the 18 that Najee Harris was at. So yeah, we can both agree Etienne gets the advantage here.
Yeah, and I think just in general on Travis Etienne, but it definitely stands out with pass protection as well. The word that comes to my mind, if someone said, describe Travis Etienne in one word, I would say the word decisiveness, because that's literally how he plays, whether he's running the ball, whether he's catching the ball, whether he's in pass protection. He's really decisive. And that partially comes with being a senior running back. You're very experienced. You played a lot of football, but another part of that is just knowing what you're doing and being an intelligent football player. And I think both of these guys, but Etienne especially, and I think that's where he edges him. That's not necessarily correlating to fantasy points, but intelligence, football intelligence and smarts is definitely something that I think both of these guys, but especially Etienne, really excel in. So scoring ability. And what we mean by this is like put the ball in the end zone. That gets us fantasy points, right? So how good are you on the goal line, in the red zone? Can you score from 80 plus yards away? What did you do in terms of rushing touchdowns? So over the past 2 years, these 2 of the top 3 running backs in terms of rushing touchdowns in the entire NCAA. Najee Harris ranked first with 26 rushing touchdowns in 2020 and 13 in 2019, which was first over the last 2 seasons with 39. He played in 26 games and he had over 1.5 rushing touchdowns per game. So this is a dude that knows how to put the ball in the paint.
Yeah, no, 100%. We're mentioning Najee Harris, 39 touchdowns in 26 games, 1.5 touchdowns per game, obviously, if you do the math. But let me tell you, Etienne is very good at scoring touchdowns in his own right. We're talking about a guy in 27 total games played, actually has 33 rushing touchdowns, which when you do the math equates to 1.22 touchdowns per game. So while we're still going to go with Harris getting the advantage here, I think we can both agree that when it comes to the red zone, when it comes to the inside the 10-yard line, Harris has that little bit edge. Maybe it is due to his frame, as cliche as that seems.
I actually think part of it is due to the fact that Trevor Lawrence runs in a lot of touchdowns as well, which could take away from Etienne on the goal line, because Trevor Lawrence ran a number of like option plays where he would just run the ball in. And Najee Harris didn't really deal with that with Tua or with Mac Jones. So I do think he has that advantage on the goal line, especially. But Etienne, yeah, again, when I actually watched these guys on tape, one of the best things that I saw out of Travis Etienne was his ability in short yardage for a small running back. His ability to get skinny and navigate lanes quickly reminded me a lot of Aaron Jones, who actually ended up comparing to Travis Etienne.
Because guess what? You know what they both have in common on the goal line?
They're the exact same size too.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You find the gap, You hit the gap, you get skinny, whatever you have to do, you fit right into that gap. And Etienne is fantastic at that. Whereas Najee Harris, he's a little bit of a bigger body. He's able to really like power his way in, if that makes sense.
He does it really well too, because he's got, again, we'll bring up his feet again. His feet and vision are just incredible. And he's better in terms of patience at getting into the goal line. But both guys, probably the best two in this class at that aspect of it, because I think that's one of my bigger knocks on Javonte Williams. 100%. Here's an area that's not really going to be close. And this, so what's the score right now? What do we got?
We got a 3-2 Najee Harris, and we're going into the 6th and final trait we're going to be evaluating for today's video. And you can mention it because the viewers at home, they're going to hear this and they're going to know who's getting the edge right off the bat. So take it away.
Home run hitting. Can you run it in from 80 yards? When we're playing fantasy, everyone has said this in their time playing fantasy. I just need a 70-yard touchdown out of this person, whoever your running back is, or your wide receiver. I just need a 70-yard touchdown. Well, who's going to give you that? It's going to be Travis Etienne. It's not going to be Najee Harris. And as good as Najee Harris is, as good as he is at every other aspect of playing running back, he is not going to have too many runs like this. He only had 28.4% of his total rushing yardage production on 15-plus yard runs in 2019, and 31.8% of them in 2020. So just under 30, or just like 30-ish% of his runs came on, or of his rushing yardage came on big runs. It's not really something that is going to lend itself to a guy that's going to break away a lot of runs and score a lot of home runs.
Yeah. And on the flip side, if you mention it with Travis Etienne in 2019, 51.4% of his total yardage came on 15-plus yard runs. And in 2020, 40.2% of his total yardage came on breakaway, aka 15-plus yard runs. This guy, if he's hitting 15 yards, guess what? He's taking that past the second level, taking it past your safeties, and he's putting that in your end zone, because you're not catching him when he's in open space. You're not catching him when he's past 15 yards from the line of scrimmage, because this guy's just got burners for days. And we mentioned overall, well, how often does he actually get these 15-plus yard runs? And basically how you do that, obviously, you take the overall 15-yard runs and you divide it by his total attempts. Well, in these past 2 years, Travis Etienne's percentage in 2019, 13.1% of his total rushing attempts went for over 15 yards. And in 2020, 9%. So you mentioned, okay, maybe Travis Etienne had a down year on other metrics. This is the one area that kind of detrimented him this year in terms of his overall output. Again, falling from 13.1 to 9%. But even at 9%, that is an elite number.
Still higher than both of Najee Harris's years. So, because Najee Harris was not as good as Etienne in this area, and that makes sense. And we're talking about 40 times for these guys. Yeah. Etienne's running in the 4.3s, and Najee Harris will be very lucky to get in the 4.4s, I would think. I think he's probably a 4.5 type in terms of straight line speed, but Etienne, I will bet money he is in the 4.3s in terms of his actual speed. And that's kind of what makes up the difference in their running styles, why Harris is a little bit more patient and nuanced, because he has to be. He's not as fast. Etienne is more decisive because he can be, because he is as fast. There's a reason the most patient runners in the NFL today, or over the last couple of years, are guys like Le'Veon Bell and David Montgomery and stuff like that, because they don't have elite speed.
Even Ezekiel Elliott, he ran a 4.46, I believe, and he's a patient runner. He's not a guy who's going to
Chris Johnson wasn't patient.
Oh,
Jamal Charles wasn't patient. They didn't need to be.
No, exactly. So overall, again, this is pretty obvious, pretty stated at this point, but Travis Etienne gets the advantage here in home run hitting, leveling the score at 3-3, which makes sense because Danny prefers Najee Harris and Bush prefers Travis Etienne. Well, guess why? They both got cream of the crop type athletic traits that kind of get you on either way. So overall,
whatever you value more. If you think, like personally, I think pass protection is very important, especially for young running backs and getting on the field early. And the fact that it is such a big advantage kind of sways me towards Etienne. And I think it's such a big advantage in home run hitting as well. Whereas the advantages that Harris has maybe are a little bit more of a narrow margin compared to the ones that Etienne has. And like I said, there's other traits that are involved in playing the running back position. There is intelligence, toughness, like all that kind of stuff, decisiveness, which I think Etienne beats him in all those categories. Not to say that he's that Najee Harris is bad in those categories, but yeah, then as we mentioned, these two guys are elite prospects. In my rankings, my personal grading system, they both graded out as elite prospects at the running back position.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the traits that we even mentioned out that Etienne takes: vision, patience, all that. Obviously, again, Najee Harris will take. So overall, I mean, these two guys, we can both agree, are the clear 1 and 2 on many boards. And pre-draft, it really comes down to your preferred flavor of running back when you really distinguish who to take between these guys. Harris, again, as I've mentioned, and I fully believe from watching these guys on film, I think he's the more all-around back. And
I would agree with you. I think he fits more NFL schemes than Travis Etienne does.
And then obviously, again, with Etienne, you got the juice, you got the overall home run potential. You got the guy who says, fuck, I need that 70-yard touchdown to even it out. Guess what? Etienne's got that ability. When it comes to your rookie drafts, there's a lot of people watching these videos who are going to be attacking those dynasty rookie drafts. Who do I take between Harris and Etienne?
Let's say you have the 102 and Trevor Lawrence in a super flex league 101. Who do you take? Honestly, and I think you agree with me, it's landing spot. Whatever one goes to the better landing spot, whoever gets the better draft capital, whatever one has less competition in their backfield, coaching staff tendencies, all that stuff will factor in. And if, for example, Travis Etienne is on the Arizona Cardinals and he went there with the 16th overall pick, and Najee Harris went in the second round to like Atlanta or something like that, I'm taking Travis Etienne, and vice versa. If Pittsburgh takes Najee Harris in the first round and Travis Etienne falls to the mid-second round to Seattle or something like that, then I'm going to take Najee Harris in that case.
That'd be such a weird fit, by the way. But
it would be such a weird fit. I couldn't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, again, hopefully you guys made it this far in this video. And again, if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoy what you're seeing from that silly guy in the bandana and the guy who's got the Lawrence Taylor mixed with the Bucks in the background.
Ridley isn't a Buck.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, fair. You wish he was, but no, I'm kidding. Make sure you go smash that like button. Really, it helps. Appreciate that. Got to help that SEO, the YouTube algorithm, as always. And again, if you're first seeing us, hit that subscribe button for more of this phenomenal content that we're bringing to the channel. With that being said, Corey, let's wrap it up. What do you have left?
Yeah, speaking of phenomenal content, if you guys enjoyed the rookie stuff that you heard here, you're going to really enjoy our draft guide. Again, link is in the description. It's been going down the ticker this whole time. It was the intro video at the beginning of this video. So make sure you guys check that out. Discord link is in the description as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll be coming at you 2 days from now with another prospect battle. We're going to be talking about the top 2 receivers in this class. Stay tuned for that. Peace out, guys, and enjoy your Tuesday.
Peace out.